Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodananda Brajajana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Chant Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya Astoru Shishimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Chant Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya Astoru Shishimat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anandi Gati Vaishnava Vranda Ki Nam Acharya Salilas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vranda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Navadvip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vranda Ki Itaya Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, it's chapter 9, right? Chapter 9, text 18 and 19. So I'll just read 18 first and then we'll do 19. I think that's how it is. Maitra uvacha atabi stuta evam vai sat sankalpena dimata britya anurakto bhagavan Prati Anandyedam Abravit. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidur, when Dhruva Maharaj, who had good intentions in his heart, finished his prayer, the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, who is very kind to his devotees and servants, congratulated him speaking as follows. So this is the 19th verse we will do today. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Veda Aham Te Vyavasitam Hiri Rajanya Balaka Pravachami Badram Te Durapam Api Suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat Tami bhadram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami badram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami badram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami badram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami badram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami badram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami badram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami bhadram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidirajanya balaka Tat prayachami bhadram te Durapam api suvrata. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Edi rajanya balaka Tat prayachami bhadram te Durapamapi suvrata. Anybody else? Sri Bhagavan uvacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Hidi rajanya balaka Tatrachami bhadram te Durapamapi suvrata. Word for word. Sri Bhagavan uvacha. The personality of Godhead said, Veda, no. Aham, I. Te, your. Vyavasitam, determination. Hirdi, within the heart. Rajanya balaka, O son of the king. Tat, that. Prayachami, I shall give you. Bhadram, all good fortune. Te, unto you. Dura, although it is very difficult to obtain. Api, in spite of. Suvrata, one who has taken a pious vow. Translation. The personality of Godhead said, My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. All good fortune unto you. By His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the Lord is so merciful to His devotee that He immediately said to Dhruva Maharaj, let there be all good fortune for you. The fact is that Dhruva Maharaj was very much afraid in his mind, for he had aspired after material benefit in discharging his devotional service, and this was hampering him from reaching the stage of love of God. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Bhogashvarya Bhaktanam, those who are addicted to material pleasure cannot be attracted to devotional service. It was true that at heart Dhruva Maharaj wanted a kingdom that would be far better than Brahma Loka. This was a natural desire for a Kshatriya. He was only 5 years old, and in his childish way he desired to have the kingdom far greater than his fathers, grandfathers, or great-grandfathers. His father, Uttanapad, was the son of Manu, and Manu was the son of Brahma. Dhruva wanted to excel all these great family members. The Lord knew Dhruva Maharaj's childish ambition, but how was it possible to offer Dhruva a position more exalted than Lord Brahma's? The Lord assured Dhruva Maharaj that Dhruva would not benefit of the Lord's love. The Lord assured Dhruva Maharaj that Dhruva would not be of the Lord's love. He encouraged Dhruva not to be worried that he childishly had material desires and at the same time had the pure aspiration to be a great devotee. Generally, the Lord does not award a pure devotee material opulence, even though he may desire it. But Dhruva Maharaj's case was different. The Lord knew that he was such a great devotee that in spite of having material opulence, he would not be deviated from love of God. This example illustrates that a highly qualified devotee can have the facility of material enjoyment and at the same time execute love of God. This, however, was a special case for Dhruva Maharaj. I'll just read the text again. The personality of Godhead said, "My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. All good fortune unto you." So, it's a very beautiful verse. As usual, we continue our discussion on Dhruva Maharaj, and specifically touching on the topic of material desires. But if you have any questions, please raise it as you go along, because in the end we really don't have time to bring it up. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 2, text number 70, there's a beautiful verse, "Apuryamana machala pratistam samudram api pravishanti yadvad tadvat kamayam pravisanti sharve sa santam apnoti na kama kami." So the translation is a very beautiful translation, talking about desires. And he's talking about how a person, a devotee, should not be disturbed by the incessant flow of desires. And the analogy is that it's like rivers entering into an ocean. And when the rivers enter into the ocean is not disturbed, it still remains still. So the analogy is that just like the ocean is full, similarly the desires may come to a devotee. A devotee still remains very peaceful, although there's many desires coming. And this is, Prabhupada, in that purport, that's the point that struck me when I first read the Bhagavad Gita. A Krishna conscious man is a person who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires may be present, because he remains fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, just like the ocean, and therefore he can be very, very peaceful. Because many, over a period of time, I've been here for a long time, so over a period of time I saw many, many devotees come and go, They had different types of desires, and some were peaceful, some were not. But the idea is to become peaceful and free from material desires, which always is a challenge. I don't know how you'll feel dealing with your desires. Maybe you could tell us how you feel sometimes, or you could share some of your realizations. But in the Gita also, in the 7th chapter, text 16, Lord Krishna speaks, Chaturvida bhajanti mam, jnana sukritino arjuna, artha jnasur arthati, jnana cha bharatarshava. 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. And he speaks about the distress, the desire of the wealth, and the inquisitive, and those who are searching for knowledge of the Absolute. But Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that all the souls are not pure devotees, but they are pious. And they can be elevated to pure devotional service by the association of a pure devotee. Just like when somebody is in distress, they surrender to Krishna and they may overcome their calamities of sickness and other material miseries. And just like the example given of such a person is Gajendra, and then somebody who is curious, inquisitively approaches Krishna consciousness to understand about the soul, but to become self-realized. And the example given is of Shanaka Rishi. But the artati is the person who wants like money, land, and different things to enjoy. The example is given of Dhruva Maharaj himself. And but the beauty of it is that he approaches the Lord for such a desire. He didn't go to the devatas. And all these devotees are Sakam devotees, or more especially Karma Mishra devotees, because they ask Krishna to fulfill their fruitive desires. But the fourth category, the Jnani, or is a Jnani Mishra Bhakta, he approaches Krishna not with some material desires, not to fulfill his material desires, but to gain liberation. Therefore, he is in the Nishkam platform. And the example given like Sukadev Goswami, the four Kumaras, like that. But they are all pious souls. So there may be we all have different types of motivation. And when I was in Bombay, at the Bombay temple, the Churu temple, there's a devotee by the name of Haridas, and Haridas was a devotee. He was imprisoned, and he really, didn't know his parents. He was like an illegitimate child, and he was like robbing people, and then he got imprisoned. And then when he got a copy of the Back to Godhead magazine in prison, he saw Prabhupada had a watch, a beautiful watch. So he wanted to, when he saw that watch, he had this intention, when he comes out, he'll go steal the watch. So, and when he came out, he went to the temple and met Giriraj Swami, who engaged him in different services, practical services, and he was doing things, and because he was an Indian person, he could deal with the local people, so he was involved in this type of services, serving Prabhupada. But as time went, and he noticed that Prabhupada was very sharp, and he would question him, how much it cost to go from here to there, what was the price of the commodity, like that. He was very conscious. But anyway, Haridas did everything. But then Prabhupada asked him, what did you come for? And he said, well, I came to steal your watch. But then, when Prabhupada was going to give him the watch, he didn't want it. It reminded me of the same, like how Dhruva Maharaj, that he wanted the kingdom, greater than his great-grandfather. But in the end, when he was offered, he really didn't want it because he had seen the Lord face to face. So like this, he He's very ill now. They move him in a wheelchair every morning for Guru Puja, and he comes and worships Prabhupada. But just thinking like that, how some people could come from just any walks of life and associate with the pure devotee and serve him for more than 50 years, almost 45, 50 years, just serving. So when one comes in contact with the pure devotee, then the material desires can be vanquished or eradicated. And when he came in contact with Prabhupada, that's what happened. And then he took initiation, and he took initiation, but it was on Haridas Thakur's appearance day that he took initiation. And actually Giriraj Maharaj gave him that name, Haridas, and Prabhupada just kept that name. So anybody from any walk of life could come and take to Krishna consciousness and make tremendous spiritual advancement and become free from material desires. Even not 100%, to a large degree, you can become free and surrender to the process. But our process is such that if you start doing things, you get purified. There's a lot of things that we wanted before that we don't want anymore in our own lives. Yeah. So I thought about that last night Of course, sometimes the devotee is very sincere to the Lord. As a special favor to him, so the Lord refuses his material desires and blesses him with the pure, unalloyed service. So if somebody is sincere, and it's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 38 and 39, where Krishna says that if one engages in my transcendent loving service, but at the same time wants the opulence of material enjoyment, he is very, very foolish. Indeed, he is just like a person who gives up ambrosia to drink poison. Since I am very intelligent, and yes, Krishna is very intelligent, why should I give this fool material prosperity? Instead, I shall induce him to take the nectar of the shelter of my lotus feet and make him forget illusory material enjoyment. So sometimes, we may desire something and we find that our desires are not being fulfilled. And because Krishna is in a sense favoring you, that is not fulfilling that desire. Also there it said, if a devotee maintains some material desire and at the same time very sincerely desires to engage in the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna may directly give him unalloyed devotional service and take away all his material desires and possessions. So this is like the Lord's special favor to the devotee. But otherwise, if one takes to Krishna's devotional service, but still has those material desires to fulfill, he may become free from those material desires, like the example of Dhruva Maharaj, but this may take some time. It's a gradual work in progress. But yeah, so how do we get free from this material desires? It boils down to hearing Krishna Katha. The more you hear, the more you hear about Krishna, then this unwanted desires start leaving your heart. It's like that verse in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam says, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hirkarna rasayana katha tajosanat asava apavarga vartmani shadaratir bhaktir anukramisyati. By associating with devotees, and we often hear this, but real association means revelation of the mind. Then all those dirty things in the heart is gradually vanishes. It's like as silver becomes shiny by being polished. The heart of a materialistic person is cleansed of lusty desires by good association of devotees. In the example which we'll speak a little later about, Prithu Maharaj also was already a self-realized devotee, and as I said in the Bhagavatam, he had a natural inclination to glorify the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Kumaras assured him that there was no chance of him falling victim to the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. So the more we glorify, the more we hear and glorify the Lord, then we can become free from contamination. And as it is said in the Bhagavatam, as Prabhupada writes it, I'll just read it. In other words, the process of hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord is the only means to clarify the heart of material contamination. Maybe it's the wrong way. Anyway. Yeah. Or to cleanse the heart of this material contamination. Just by hearing and chanting. Yeah. So gradually, one progresses, he has more taste, then he gets more attachment, like that, bhava and prema. Then he comes to the highest level of love. But that is done with the association of devotees, and more like-minded devotees also is important. Although you can associate with everyone, but for more advancement you have to associate with like-minded devotees. There's a nice verse that I found in the 4th canto also. Whenever pure topics of transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings. But it's interesting, whenever pure topics, I don't know whether we feel the same, but whenever pure topics of the eternal world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, and this is important, at least for the time being. At least for the time being. Not only that, but what also happens, but they are no longer envious of one another. That's also probably for the time being. Nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. So that is what happens. When we're discussing these transcendental subject matters, or hearing the Bhagavatam, we become free from envy, anxiety or fear, at least for the time being. For that moment. But then we may go back to it. And Prabhupada is speaking about that in Vaikuntha means without anxiety, and the material world is full of anxiety. But when the way topics of Krishna are discussed, or his devotees, then that place becomes Vaikuntha, like that verse in the Bhagavatam. Naham tistam Vaikuntha yoginam hidayeshu va yatra yatra gayanti mad bhakta tatra tishtami narada. When Narada says, I do not, my dear Narada, Krishna said, actually I do not reside in my abode, Vaikuntha, nor do I reside within the hearts of yogis, but I reside in a place where my pure devotees chant the holy names and discuss my form, qualities, and pastimes. We heard this many times, but we just have to hear it all the time, but at the same time try to practice or apply what we hear. The atmosphere is without fear and anxiety, especially wherever the whole Lord's holy name and glories are chanted. Because actually the Sankirtan movement is created, by our society, by ISKCON, for creating Vaikuntha, and getting the people free from anxiety in this material world. Because in the material world, we spoke about envy. In the material world, everyone is envious of his fellow man. Somewhere down the line, there's some sort of deep in the heart, it's there, that envy is there. But when we associate with people who are free from this, we can also become free from envy. Even just by hearing this narration of Dhruva Maharaj, as it is said in the 4th canto, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increase duration of life. If one can go to Dhruva Loka just by hearing about him. So bhakti also removes, miseries, fear, the inauspicious qualities in us. Because, remember when his mother, when he approached his mother directed him to go to the forest and meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she didn't direct him to any devatas or demigods, because she knew that only he could fulfill his desire. You should directly approach the Supreme Lord to mitigate your misery. There's so much to talk on about this one. We got a few minutes. Okay. Yeah. And one should also get the mercy of the spiritual master, which is, in one sense, Lord Nityananda's mercy. To become free from material desire. Because when one starts offending both devotees and Guru Avagya, the spiritual master, then the way the person falls down is that he gets material desires. That's how he falls down. And Narasam Das Thakur, he says, when will Lord Nityananda be merciful upon me so that I will forget all material desires? And he also says that one cannot understand this transcendental word of Lord Krishna of Vrindavan without guessing the mercy of Lord Nityananda, and also entering the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, not getting the mercy of Lord Nityananda or the Goswamis. So material desires will always be on the way. And you will find that this is a special case, in Dhruva Maharaj's case. that he asked for some opulences, and the Lord had given him those opulences. But when you get other devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, is a little different. He refuses to accept material benediction because he considered that an impediment to his bhakti. He says, don't tempt me into these illusions. I am afraid of these material conditions. And therefore I am taking shelter at your lotus feet. And more so, the Lord had sent him to the material world to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee. He was a Nityasiddha devotee. And he felt that, if you desire some material benefit in exchange for devotional service, you cannot be a pure devotee. Rather, he's no better than a merchant who wants profit in exchange for service. So, pure devotional service is without that type of motivation, some ulterior motive. And somehow we must try to get that. In the seventh canto, there's much more can be discussed about Prahlad Maharaj. He was unmotivated. We often hear this terminology, unmotivated, or this word, unmotivated. So we have to become free from ulterior motives and just render service to Krishna in a very, very pure way. The other thing is that from the purport, the other point that we wanted to take note of is that Dhruva Maharaj wanted to get a kingdom, greater than his great-grandfather. And that is something a devotee must not try to desire for, to be better than another devotee. Just like in the example of Prithu Maharaj, where he was doing 100 horse sacrifices that will surpass Indra. And but they both were devotees. But one is trying to surpass the other. But when you try to do that, there's bound to be some envy. Unless you're very intelligent, as Prabhupada would say it in the purport, is to adjust the course of their envy. Because you have to look at, we are both Vaishnavas, we are both servants of Krishna. And if we're both servants of Krishna, then it's best to cooperate with each other. What happens, we may end up in some arguments and confrontation, but that's not good. But here, he was, Indra had done 99, and if Prithu had done 100, it will supersede him. And therefore, there was, as Prabhupada puts in it, because of the Krishna consciousness, such rivalry, competition, and envy can be adjusted without difficulty. The verse itself. Let there be only 99 sacrificial performance for Maharaj Prithu. Lord Brahma concluded. Lord Brahma then turns toward Maharaj Prithu and informed him that since he was thoroughly aware of the path of liberation, what is the use of performing the sacrifices? In one sense, there was no need, because this type of sacrifices fall in the level of karma. But because he was a king, it was his duty to do it. So in this way, he managed to resolve and stop that, where Prithu did not surpass Prithu did not surpass Indra. So that, he hadn't surpassed Indra, but who's more glorious? It's Prithu. Although he did 98, he still remained on 99. So you don't have to surpass somebody to, there's no need to surpass somebody, another devotee. We could just be ourselves. As like one devotee commented, just be yourself and make your contribution. You don't have to be somebody else. And that's important. So much can be said about material desires. We ourselves are working at it. But the best way is to be absorbed, like all the time, doing something for Krishna. Krishna consciousness is an internal process. We have to do some practical service, but we also have to work with our heart, and that we should give time for. And it can only be done, when revelation takes place to the spiritual master or to other devotees, and we work on those challenges. So we'll stop here. If there's any question, we've got about 5 or 7 minutes. Somebody would like to add to what I just said? Add something?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for class. Yeah, when you mentioned there was many points you brought up there. You mentioned about the devotee Haridas, how when he was in prison and he saw the picture of Prabhupada with his watch, he was so attracted, but he was very motivated in that way to come for that watch. But after seeing Prabhupada and taking darshan of Prabhupada, and apparently he joined the temple, took initiation, and all those, gradually they dissipated, those desires. So likewise we all, like devotees, we on different levels of advancement. We make, neophyte stage, we may have aspirations, material aspirations, but gradually as we engage and associate with devotees and become purified from that. Yeah. But it's not that we want to imitate great devotees, but we can emulate them in set standards of how we can also use them as a yardstick, or that how we can also elevate our consciousness, not to imitate them. Yeah. So use them as examples, exemplary examples of like our, the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, the previous acharyas, or many senior devotees who live exemplary lives that we can emulate, not imitate, and become determined to become Krishna conscious.
Thank you for that. It reminds me of how Indradumna Swami made a point. He said, one devotee said, Prabhupada, I want to be just like you. And like other people in the audience may have thought, well, how can you be like Prabhupada, But Prabhupada said, thank you very much. Because, at least he wanted to come to that standard, Yeah. So, anyway, yes.
Thank you so much, Raghunath Prabhu. While you were speaking, I was thinking about some things I read around the topic. You can't. It's like the sound is like. I was just thinking of some things I read around the topic you were speaking about. That sometimes Krishna will reciprocate with a devotee by actually fulfilling their material desires, because he can foresee that by doing that, the devotee will become so grateful and surrender more. But then on the other hand, it could also be that someone who's very dear to the Lord has everything taken away from him so that he has nothing else to surrender to except for the Lord. So the Krishna, he will always decide in different cases what's best based on how the devotee will respond. And then I was also thinking of how, well, I read that sometimes out of circumstances a grihasta has to approach the Lord for material things, even though he may not personally desire them, but out of duty. And I was thinking of the example of, who is that there? I forgot his name. Sudama, yes. So, because his wife was asking him because they were living in such a poverty-stricken condition. So then he approaches the Lord, even though he doesn't really want to, and then he isn't even able to actually ask the Lord, but because the Lord sees what is needed, he ends up giving him so much. But then when Sudama went back home and saw all of the opulence the Lord had bestowed upon him, he actually felt fearful because he thought, what if I become entangled? Of course he's a pure devotee, but he was just setting that example for us that we have to always be careful of that if the Lord does reciprocate with us, we should be careful to use whatever we have in his service and not become entangled, but rather to see that he's only giving it to us for him, to use it for him.
Yeah, the example of she's quoting the example of Sudama. And like Sudama, went, he needed, well actually, his wife wanted him to go see his friend Krishna. But you see, Sudama was attached to poverty. Sometimes people are attached to that type of, it's like an attachment to poverty. So, so when he saw Krishna and Krishna gave him, all his opulence, to give him so much, it said, to see whether he can deal with it. No. She said like another test, it was because he was attached to poverty, as the Acharyas comment. So that's also there, it's not, it's to purify the person of his attachment to poverty. So, yeah. That's interesting. Anybody else would like to say anything? Say something, Jack? Huh? Yeah. To be poor. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was two friends, Sudama and...
Yeah.
The woman by nature, they want opulence. They sleep in one of the fans. The household
Yeah.
Krishna also appreciated about sleep. Krishna shows doubt. He comes for Dharma, the sake of Dharma, to treat Brahmana.
Yeah.
Shows it. How to treat the Brahmana. What should be offering art for the Vedic culture. Comes to uphold Dharma. Whatever great men do, common.
Yeah, Chari status, yeah.
Saya pramanam kurunti lokasta.
Bhatta.
Whatever great men do, common men follow. And whatever standard is set by them, all the world
Yes, yes.
is used. Who else but the Supreme Lord? Vice President.
Yeah. But it's always good to acknowledge our shortfalls and our attachments and material desires. It's good to acknowledge it and work at it. Because you can't just leave it there, but material desire, we don't maintain them as we're saying every day. but we must really look at it and work at it. Otherwise it'll become a problem in due course of time. We'll have some child difficulties.
Who is the guru of the Pandavas? That's guru.
Dronacharya.
Yeah, it's also his story is like son named Ashwatthama. Drona was a Brahmana also. Not even afford to buy milk. Couldn't even afford to buy milk. Kids around them would
Yeah,
make fun of it. Sorry, that they mixed lime water.
lime water in it.
Drona was so touched. Hurt.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? It's 8:30 now. Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you.